February 27, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-futures mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. Overall price action stayed within, I would say, kind of a, well, from here to here, it's about 15 points, 15, 16 points. And then if you actually span the entire range, it looks like it was only about, I would say, 26 points. Not too much. Most of the price action was very condensed and consolidated. There were two pieces of economic data, or two times economic data came out that might have moved the market. The first time was at 5:30, which is about right here. It was the durable goods order. And then the second one was at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard, where you see this big green spike. That was the CB consumer confidence. And after that, prices just kind of moved sideways. It had a big rally in the pre-market, chopped around, moved sideways, sold off, and then kind of did a two-step rally. I took a total of 6 trades today, which is definitely more than usual. The first two trades happened here, which weren't very good setups. One of them wasn't a good setup, it was an early trade. The second one was, well, it was kind of a false, no reason trade where I thought I saw something, I convinced myself there was something, and I took a trade. So it was two trades that lost in a row. And typically I would step away, but then I jumped on a third trade. Then I traded 3 more times in. So the first two were losers, and then the next four were green. So I'm ending the day green, but I'm not particularly proud of the subsequent trades, especially this one here, because it's so late in the day. I I think I was just in I wasn't quite disciplined today. So it was a little more haphazard. Definitely stressed me out mentally because you're watching trades unfold. On top of that, similar to yesterday, the volume was very low. So it took quite a while for these candles to close. And that came into play for the first two trades. And I'm going to discuss it pretty shortly. There were other setups here that I didn't take though. And that's kind of unfortunate because I think they would have been decent setups. A lot of them were a little more aggressive though. I'm going to get into the charts right now. But immediately in the pre-market, I could already tell it's going to be a very slow day because the amount of volume that had traded prior, to yesterday, prior to the open and after yesterday's close is very little. So these candles took quite a while to close. The first setup I saw after, it already happened though, but I saw it. It's definitely a rally in the pre-market, and I saw this as a new high. It's a first entry long, pullback, second entry long. So count kind of resets. This is the new swing high. It's a first entry long here, pull back, second entry long. This is a really good signal bar. And depending on how you looked at it, it could also be considered a higher low because you do have the new low here, first entry short, second entry short. This creates a failure on the second entry short. And then you could count this also as a higher low. But I saw this, after the fact, it already occurred because I don't trade in the pre-market, that I didn't really do anything. So then it looks like it's just kind of pushing up, and I wasn't too sure it's going to be a rally day because it looked like it was going to be range bound, and it kind of turned out that way. So prices then open. You do have a new high here, or new swing high. It's a first entry long, and then you don't get a second entry long till way down here. And that's sort of too far from the setup to consider it part of anything. And definitely when you see this big sell-off, you're not thinking of going long. Prices move, creates a new low. Say first entry short, pull back, creates the second entry short. The second entry short, I thought is potentially a trade. It's a break of this green down channel, had two measured legs up, so it broke, made one attempt up, second attempt up, and now you're thinking the correction might have played out. It's being rejected by the EMA. Prices are probably going to come back down to test this low because it only made one attempt down so far. So this could be the second attempt down. Decent signal bar, and I thought this was a possible trade, but I unfortunately didn't take it. Prices then continue, creates a double top here. No setups that I see. Pushes up, so I do see this as a potential support here. And I didn't really have this top as a trading range yet because there's no confirmation here. All you see is potentially a support bottoming pattern, push back up. So here creates a new high. It's a first entry long. It's a break of this yellow channel. So I'm reluctant to take any second entry longs in here because it's part of the correction. You don't know if it's going to push to the other side, but you don't get your second entry long till way down here. So I thought this is a second entry long potential. it is a triple test, and here it confirms your second entry long, and its triple test is the break of this green down channel broke to the low side, so you're thinking it might push up and create a matching break on this side. So this is a potential trade, but I thought the signal bar, which would be this guy, was pretty good, but it's really big. So if you did enter, you'd have to go like one tick above or at the highs here after you confirm that it ticked above, and then your stop loss would be way down here. And that's kind of a big candle, and you would have survived if you're just going for one quick scalp. If you're trying to go for 2 points, you'd have to sit through this noise, and then over here you likely would have gotten out. But up until that time, you could already tell price action was kind of slow. You'd have to sit through this anxiously, wondering if it's going to continue and reverse back down. So that's mainly one of the reasons I only go for 1 point. Plus, I don't trust my read of the charts enough to know if it's going to move more than the 1 point. So the longer I'm in a trade, the more nervous I get. So I usually just go for that 1 point. And as I get better at reading the markets and kind of seeing setups, I think I will go for more than just the 4 ticks, maybe 5, 6, and definitely incorporate runners. The prices then continue chopping. It starts moving down. It creates another triple test here. Now, this is a pretty decent setup, I believe, also, but it's also aggressive because here you have a clear support here. It's touched once, twice, 3 times. It could be a triple test, or you can consider it like a quadruple test, but definitely it's a bounce off the lows. And if you're playing the range, because I at this point thought, okay, maybe this is a range with the highs here. Range rules say just buy at the low. This is a good signal bar. I mean, this is a bad signal bar, but this is a good setup because it ticked one tick below and immediately flashed up, engulfed the previous bar, and closed at its high. So definitely this is probably worthwhile trade. You don't have to really worry about the EMA because the EMA is just kind of flattening out now. There's not much respect by prices to respect it as a resistance or support because it's popping above and below. So I wasn't too concerned about the EMA, but I thought this was a possible trade. Looks like it would have worked for the quick 1 point scalp. Here, now this is also where I thought I saw another triple test because like one attempt up, second attempt up, third attempt up, and it was a second entry short from new low, first entry short, pullback, second entry short. Now this one I didn't consider as a trade just yet because this is a potential resistance and a triple test, but if you look at the difference between this one down here and this one up here, this one doesn't hit as clean. So it does, spike above and create a little bit of noise. Then this one spiked up even higher than these two guys. So it's showing that bulls had a little more power to push it even higher. So although you have a second entry short potential triple test, which I didn't really like because it's not a clean triple test, not like down here, what's telling me is it went from the bottom to the top to the bottom to the top to the bottom with 2 attempts. Now it makes one attempt. This could be just seen as one leg instead of one leg, 2 legs. So I'm thinking going short feels a little risky because it could make one attempt down, one attempt up, pull back, and then make a second attempt to touch the top. But it was something I marked because in real time I saw it and I was questioning whether there was a short trade there. But I thought it's better to wait for a higher low or a lower high to confirm the direction that this thing's going to go. And you could say this is a higher low or maybe even a higher low here and a lower high here, but it's just a little bit congested and convoluted. So I didn't really like it. And I was glad I kind of skipped it. Prices start moving down what I think is this yellow down channel. It creates this new low. It's a first entry short pullback. This is a potential second entry short. You don't know it yet until it breaks one tick below. And here it does break one tick below. So this second entry short, it's nice that it got rejected off this very gradual yellow down channel. The EMA really isn't coming into play, but you do see that prices are starting to turn down because it was just kind of choppy here, but now it is showing some kind of move downwards. But when I saw this and I was thinking a potential second entry short, I wasn't quite sure because it just came from a bounce off the bottom here. So it's coming from the bottom and it could be pushing back up to the top, but it did fail to get up to here. So I was thinking maybe it's starting to respect a tighter trading range, but I'm not 100% sure. It is a really strong flush down. But then when you see this, if you took a short here, it would have been, I feel, a little risky because the bias isn't super clear right now. It's just kind of oscillating. But definitely after this close, it feels risky. Then you wait for this next candle and it flushes down. Now there definitely is too late to try to go short now because you'd be shorting into this potential support. So it's just kind of like a leave it alone type of situation. Then prices continue moving. Up until this point, I thought there was a potential trade here. It is a little bit more aggressive because it's a big bar, and another potential trade here. I also thought this is a potential, a little bit of a bigger risk. And then I also saw potentially a trade here. So I saw these potential trades after the fact and after processing. So I was getting like a little FOMO that I'm missing out on these possibilities. Prices broke out. It's a failed breakout here. And it looks like it's moving back into range. Failed breakout of both this trading range and the yellow down channel. Moves up. And so this is kind of where I started taking a couple of trades that weren't very good. So you see a new low here. It's a first entry short. Prices move up. Creates a second entry short right here. Right here confirms the second entry short when it broke below. And so I decided, okay, prices are coming from a failed breakout. Create a second entry short. I saw this early, which isn't correct. I just assumed that EMA this looked like it's starting to hold prices. So I decided that prices are going to move back up. So I considered it a failed second entry short, especially when this next candle opened here, flashed up. I entered at the highs, assuming prices were going to continue back up. Then it flashed down and stopped me out. So that was, you know, not really a setup. It wasn't a good setup because I didn't wait for this to show me anything. And even though it came from a failed breakout, it's not a good enough reason to take this trade. And I was just assuming that I was going to move back to the top of the range. Had I been more disciplined and just waited for this to close to assess whether this is a good trade or not, then I think I would have stayed out of it, especially on this isn't a very bulletproof setup. So this is premature to jump in early. If it was like a really clean, very well-defined trend, then you could get in a little early on engulfing bars and whatnot. But this is just choppy. Look at these candles. You already have incorporating a couple of dojis, and then there's just kind of these big tails. So this trade shouldn't have happened. Then here's what happened. Since price action is so slow today, you can see the timestamp of 9:09, and then this next candle happens at 9:13. So I sat there wondering about this trade, over analyzing it, kind of beating myself up, thinking, well, that was pretty foolish. On top of that, this is took 4 minutes of price action while this is just slowly creeping along. It never broke below the EMA. I drew this channel at that point, and I was thinking, okay, it looks like the EMA is holding. My original idea of going long was correct, so I'm going to take an entry. I took it just haphazardly right here. You can see this blue triangle. I entered thinking, well, I'm obviously right. How would I justify this? No, nothing. I have no justification. Looks like it makes a double top, then it flashes down. Of course, stops me out one tick below. And at this point, I took two losing trades in a row. This one shouldn't even happen, and then this one was because I was just too eager. This is more of an emotional trade. At that point, I lost two in a row, and I was assessing: should I just step away? I'm just not in it today. I didn't, and this is like only 7, 8 minutes later. I see this new high, first entry long, right here. Pull back, second entry long. Second entry long looks like it's about to fail because it closed so low. When this failed, so EMA is starting to hold, and this is kind of like the contradiction of my thinking because I was thinking EMA doesn't really matter, then EMA suddenly matters, and then EMA matters again. Whereas previously EMA doesn't really matter. So my thinking was garbled, definitely affected by the two previous trades. But the way I was thinking about it in real time was there's a new high, first entry long, pullback, second entry long. It was failing. And this one, it was happening rather quickly. And so when it had the EMA rejection and it was starting to push down, as soon as it broke below this guy, I'm thinking, okay, failed second entry long, and I wanted to see if it was going to push through here. So when it pushed through, I jumped in really, really quick at the lows here, And I said, I think this is going to push down. This isn't enough justification to take the trade. It was definitely aggressive. So I did get in. It's hard to see, but this really small pink triangle right at the lows here. Price actually flushed down, closed, and I thought it was going to pick me up. But when it closed here, I was thinking, it didn't hit my order. Why didn't it take me out? I'm just too slow. It finally filled me. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. But definitely, this trade was kind of a lucky shot, I would say. Prices then move. It starts moving down what I thought is this orange channel at this point. There's no clean setup. So I'm, 1 for 2. I only got one win and two losses. I'm in the red right now. Breaks below the orange. It pushes up on the green. It breaks, makes one attempt up, tests and makes a new high, pulls back, makes a second attempt, and it makes a new high. So I'm thinking, or the way I would read it is, it broke the orange channel, made one attempt up, made a second attempt up. The trend of this green channel is played out. It might resume to come back and test this yellow channel, but I was thinking maybe it's going to push back into this larger blue trading range. So as you can tell, my thinking is all over the place at this point. It pushes back down, so I'm thinking, okay, the fail breakout on a larger time scale is pushing back down and through, so this might be a breakout pullback. And this is where I take my next trade. Now this trade it's a second entry long, but okay, so let me go through the thinking. It pushed up, made two attempts up. So now you're thinking it's going to come back down. It made one attempt down. This could be the second attempt down, but I saw this as the second attempt down didn't quite do it, and I saw it as one first entry long, second entry long, decent signal bar. I just decided that I was going to jump on it. EMA is flat, and I made the argument that it's holding, but that's not quite accurate because it wasn't holding previously. So as you could tell, I'm just kind of fabricating reasons at this point to take this entry. It was a good signal bar. It's only 6 ticks, and I justify that as like, okay, well, that's a good enough reason to take the trade, which it wasn't. But I decided to take it anyways. And so I entered at the highs. I was lucky enough to get a quick scalp, and I was cognizant of the lows of this blue trading range, which was respected before. So I said, I just want to make sure I get out before prices touch this in case there's a rejection. Might see something like this and push back down. So it was kind of like a somewhat calculated risk, but it wasn't a very good trade. It was more kind of pure luck, I think. When prices continue moving up, it breaks out of this green channel. You do have a second entry long here, and I didn't really like that it pushed up strongly, pushed back down strongly. This candle actually engulfed the previous 2 candles, and then this one is trying to attempt to move back up. I would have considered a trade here if this bounced off the EMA and it didn't have this overshoot, because when it had this overshoot on this side, I'm weary of going second entry long in that direction because it could be just a big correction. It could continue back down through here. It pushes up. I see this as a failed breakout second entry short because it's a new low, localized new low. First entry short, second entry short hasn't been made until you get here. So when this creates a second entry short, it's risky because my justification is this trading range, which only confirmed just recently a third time, this failed breakout, but it looked like bulls were pushing pretty strongly to try to push it up. I decided this was a good enough trade. Again, using the justification that this is only a 6-tick risk, I entered right here. It came down and it closed a little bit high, so I thought I might got stopped out because I kept my stop loss right here, keeping it very tight. It starts moving down and it lets me get my scalp. So this is the second kind of iffy trade. I I guess this is my third iffy trade because I took 2 bad trades. This big trade was very quick knee-jerk reaction. This trade was iffy, not the best justification. And this trade was a little iffy, just playing off the second entry short failed breakout. Prices then kind of obey the EMA and moves up, starts trending up. And as it pushes up and it touches a third time, I drew this trend line. I wasn't sure it was a trend channel that was viable, but I drew it as a placeholder here. Saw this as a new low. Actually, I saw this as a new low. I said first entry short, second entry short, and it comes all the way back down here. Count resets. This is a new localized low. First entry short, pull back, creates a second entry short. Second entry short closes high, technically right at the EMA. It is bouncing off this up channel, this yellow up channel, and I thought, well, that's a good enough trade for me. It's starting to show strength. I jumped in, one tick, actually at the same highs as these two double tops. It kind of makes me nervous right here. And this is like 1 minute to 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So I had to wait for 4 minutes to see what happens, and finally it flashes up and lets me get my scalp. So the thing with this trade is it's very late in the day now. I was actually already green by this trade because these three trades washed away the losses on these two trades. So I was technically already green, but just barely if you add in commission. So for no for that reason alone, I said, oh, I want to be more green, which isn't a good reason to take any trades. Just saying I want to be more green, especially so late in the day, because this is taken at 12:40. There's only 20 minutes, and in 10 minutes, I know price action for the last 10 minutes gets really, really choppy right around 12:50 Pacific Standard. So this was definitely a trade that should have been skipped. So overall, today was kind of a messy roller coaster of emotions. It was, I know for sure, due to the very slow, very difficult trading these last few weeks have been for this entire month, that I definitely, jumped in early on some of this. And I know for a fact my trading skills when I'm in ranges isn't very good, especially if the ranges don't create consistent highs and consistent lows. However, today there were consistent lows that I failed to capitalize on. And I think that kind of added to the frustration that I felt like, well, I missed these trades. I better do something. I'm not, making good decisions. So that caused me to take these two trades here, which were poorly planned, poorly executed, when I should have just sat there quietly. I think this is likely, if I'd stayed disciplined, would have been a no trade day, or I would have taken this entry and maybe this entry and potentially this entry. But definitely these two were terrible. This one was a little iffy. It was a very quick trade. I think I was lucky that I found it and I was able to get my order filled. And then these three trades were somewhat more iffy. This one wasn't a bad setup. It was just too late in the day to try to take this trade. So yeah, I'm thinking just staring at the charts for too long, plus when it takes forever for the candles to close, that just keeps adding fuel to the fire where you get anxious. I'm still working on that kind of discipline to be able to stare at the chart all day and be disciplined enough not to invent setups for myself, because I easily fall into that when I think, oh, I'll not invent second entries necessarily, but I'll invent reasons to take the second entry. So hopefully that was helpful.